breaking news right now. SkyCal has finally made it over another pursuit underway right now.
Desmond Shaw live in SkyCal with more for us. Des, another white car, it looks like.
Yep, yeah, here we go. Another pursuit here. This one totally unrelated to that one that we were seeing, just kind of circling around downtown L.A. right now. I believe we said this was a stolen vehicle as we're back out onto Washington Boulevard. So we first heard this on LAPD's southwest frequency, so somewhere in the South L.A. area. There were quite a few black and whites behind this one. LAPD both on the ground. You see him crossing the Expo line tracks right here and around Grant. It kind of seems like the suspect doesn't know what they want to do. They actually drove it to a dead end on Hope Street right at the 10 freeway, but they were able to get their way out of that as we go underneath the 10 freeway now. You know, LAPD, they got to be careful because there we go. Okay, just making sure that they were going to pop out right there. As we're actually going the wrong way on. This is a one-way street, and this suspect is going the wrong way.
Multiple times he's done this, you guys.
So, yeah, very nerve-wracking, and these are the kind of techniques, unfortunately, where really gives LAPD a lot of pause to continue the pursuit. So we'll see what they're going to do right by a cyclist right there. They were driving in the bike lane earlier as well. So it's a pretty frightening one here in the heart of downtown, guys.
Wow, so unsafe. Mike, I know you've been on the phone with police. What have you been able to piece together since Des has now been over the scene?
Yeah, just at what they call, this is what they call a Code 37. That's a stolen vehicle. Okay. I can't really hear how they came upon it, if this was a situation where they just ran a plate, if it's a fresh stolen, or exactly what the circumstances are.
Oh no.
Real close.
So many close calls with these bicyclists, the way he's been driving wrong side of the road. LAPD is in tracking mode, technically, although earlier we saw those officers pretty close behind him. Now that he's gone on the wrong side of the road, I assume that they're pretty far behind him because they were not able to negotiate that wrong way turn, or that wrong way down that street. That's against their policy generally. So, you know, we'll have to see if they end up getting back close with him right now. But again, we are just north of the 10 freeway, I believe. And just coming in, as Des mentioned, getting into Skid Row.
And so many pedestrians out this afternoon, even with the heat, so many bicyclists, people on foot. Look at this crosswalk there. And thank goodness that we haven't seen anybody get injured here. But we have a driver, in a stolen car, just not willing to stop.
Certainly close calls. And the problem here, too, is that officers back off so that they are hoping that this driver will drive a little slower and calm down a bit. But also, when they're not close behind, people on the road don't know that this is happening. They don't hear the sirens. They don't see the flashing lights. So they don't know someone's desperately trying to get away from officers.
And now we're getting into a worse situation where if they are still in tracking mode, which I believe that they are, and we're coming into downtown with tall buildings, police helicopters, our helicopters, we're going to start to have a really hard time keeping an eye on this. And with the way that he's driving, I don't really see LAPD, the watch commander there at Southwest, giving permission to go back into full-blown pursuit on city streets with tons of pedestrians, with a driver who clearly has no regard for public safety, driving on the wrong side of the road. I mean, we've only been overhead this couple minutes now. We've already seen several close calls with bicyclists and pedestrians. But it looks like, I think, are we going back that south now, Des?
Yeah, we are. We're in southbound Maine, so we'll be crossing underneath the 10 freeway here again momentarily. This is really kind of a pick your poison here for LAPD because this one is so dangerous. I mean, you hate to let a suspect get away, but they are, definitely weighing, public safety. But then if they back off and the driver continues to drive like this, then you really have the worst of all worlds, where a suspect is just driving like a total maniac without any, LAPD even behind them. So as we're getting right back to the 10 freeway here at Maine and Venice. So many people out here walking around right now. We've had a lot of close calls. That's what's making this so dangerous. And this person here who's just taking every opportunity to go through every red light that they possibly can as we cross Venice, still southbound on Maine. We'll see what LAPD's next move is going to be on this one.
And I'm wondering why he's not making a right-hand turn. He's had two opportunities where he could continue the flow of traffic and make a right-hand turn. But as you were saying, Des, he's just blowing through all these red lights. Pedestrians are crossing the street. Such dangerous driving here.
Yeah. And you wonder if this driver's not as familiar with downtown after going down wrong way streets, ending up in that dead-end street. You see a pedestrian there just trying to get out of the way. Now he's making that right-hand turn, or she. We don't know if it's a male or female behind the wheel of this stolen car, but certainly very dangerous. At 4:30 on a Tuesday afternoon, a lot of folks are about to get off work. Some are already getting off work, walking, riding their bikes, and things are really going to be picking up as more people in their workday here in the downtown area.
LAPD right there.
And, you know, guys, as I'm kind of looking at this, I'm looking at the track of the LAPD helicopter. We may be, if I'm looking at this correctly, kind of in the area where this started. And then it looks like we went southbound, like paralleling the 110, maybe even on the 110, and then west a little bit further south, and then all the way back north up La Cienega, and then they came back eastbound on Obama, and then north back up towards the 10 freeway where we ended up picking it up. So looks like we're kind of doing a big circle at this point.
Are we officially still in tracking mode, Mike?
I believe so, Des. I don't know if you can tell with the distance that is behind the vehicle there, if there are any patrol cars even back there. I would assume so, the way that they've been driving. Yeah, see, there's no black and whites right on his tail there, so I would assume that we are still in tracking mode. Des, I know there is still an LAPD ship up there, right?
Yes, there is. There is still an LAPD ship up here. I'm sure the watch commander kind of, you know, just trying to decide what they want to do next, if they even, you know, want to continue this, because it has become a pretty dangerous one, even without any black and whites on the ground. And, you know, it's just become, you know, we've just had way too many bad endings with these stolen vehicle pursuits for, you know, a potentially nonviolent crime. But I mean, you know, this person is just cutting off all of these pedestrians. That was somebody in a wheelchair right there. Extra awful is, you know, now we're on kind of narrow residential streets here in South LA, 23rd Street. Headed towards the East LA interchange. So, you know, we did see some other units that were kind of on the periphery of this. Maybe the hope is that, I mean, this person does seem pretty aimless, that, you know, maybe they'll drive into a dead end or something, and they'll be forced to get out of their vehicle, and then they can, you know, move the authorities in at that point. Maybe that's the going strategy right now. We're not hearing about pit maneuvers or spike strips or anything like that. But, you know, we're talking about this area, this time of day. It is definitely a big-time public safety issue.
Yeah, big problem. And again, the want here is simply a stolen vehicle. So to be, you know, driving so dangerously, putting so many people's lives at risk, just keeps adding to the possible charges that this driver is definitely going to face. Because as we can see here, just going down, you know, the wrong way on a one-way street, crossing over the expo line. We saw him blowing through red lights, and now it looks like, yeah, Desi's, he's in an alley now, right?
Yep, into an alley here off of 20th and Central, paralleling Central, headed northbound right now. The alley now coming out onto 20th Street, it looks like, and then another aimless turn. So just, yeah, circling around, kind of like Mike was saying, kind of in the general vicinity of where we had first heard about all of this, along it just basically straddling downtown LA and South LA. And we might have just come to a stop here. Let's see if we can get to the other side.
Out on foot.
Is anyone out and running? Yep, out on foot. Yep, we got multiple people out here. Looks like maybe 3 suspects. Yep, 3, 4, 5. I think there's 5.
Oh, yeah.
They're all into this backyard right here.
3, 4, 5, yeah.
Yeah. Multiple suspects again. Fortunately, out of the vehicle. That's definitely good news for everyone else with all of those close calls. And, well, you know, I got to tell you guys, I believe that looked like a stolen Kia. Looked like some pretty young guys that were involved in this, that were in this vehicle. It may have been another case of the very well-publicized Kia boys. We won't know for sure, but certainly possible as they are out here running, all 4 of them together. These are... These look like children.
Yeah.
And you know what? We've heard this before about the Kia boys, that a lot of them may not even be 18. We've got 4 of the 5 all together in this group. We'll try to keep with them as long as we can. Unfortunately, those Kias and Hyundais just so easy to steal.
Can you guys tell us about the Kia boys? What are the Kia boys?
It's on social media.
It's kind of a it's kind of a not. You can't even really call it an affiliation. I mean, they talk on social media. They're not really affiliated with each other, but it's going on all across the country. These kids that get on, and it's become very well known how easy it is to steal some of these cars. And they get out there, they joyride around with them, and and then a lot of times this ends up happening. They crash the cars, or they get out, they're stolen, and they get out and run. And they're all kind of keeping together, which is very curious. But these look to be young kids here, probably not even old enough to drive, from what I can see, as they're running all around these yards. It's going to be really hard to keep tabs on all of them, any of them, really, as we're off of Griffith and 20th. You see the shadow there from LAPD as they're now out in the street, but there's still no one here to arrest these kids.
And really quick, Des, that's because I went back and listened to some of the radio traffic. They, in fact, terminated the pursuit altogether. So they were not even in tracking mode at the time. If they're in tracking or surveillance mode, it allows those officers to be kind of nearby. The watch commander ordered they terminate it altogether, which is why it's taking so long. But this is, looks like an adult that...
Interesting.
And you wonder if he knows
we'll see if we can get
them?
around to the other side of this. That may be, or knows what's going on anyway.
Yeah.
Is that the fifth person on the sidewalk?
No, that's another adult.
Another adult?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, they were in the same vicinity, and you have to wonder if they knew this area, if they live in this area, if they got friends in this area, and that they were hoping to be able to hide in this area.
But now what's interesting is you've got people that were uninvolved in this, now involved in this.
Here we go.
So, is this woman catching them for the police?
Well,
nope,
now as they
inside.
go slip in there, oh boy, it's really hard to say. Plus we're almost certainly dealing with minors. And I mean, are they going to get away? I mean, LAPD's helicopter is here. They've got to be telling units, but I don't know if it's up to the watch commander if they want to do anything about this. The danger to the public is over, but perhaps not setting such a great precedent if these kids are just able to get away like this.
Yeah, there's you got a black and white pulling up right there.
Okay, so the potentially concerned citizen here may be telling LAPD what they saw, and we'll see what happens here with this five kids at one point. It may have split off into a couple of different groups here, but last we saw they were
three of them went into that building,
right,
I think, right?
20th at Griffith. Yep. Yeah. Let's see. We're looking at 10, 12, 20th Street is what my map tracker telling me.
Yeah. And Des, just a minute ago, I did hear the police helicopter. It sounded like having a couple of the other, at least one of the other suspects that splintered off here. So they may be tracking one of the other ones that are still out on foot. And then I do think that they heard, sorry, I was listening to the radio here, that the three of them went into this building.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when they all got out of the car, it was in a position where we couldn't see, and we couldn't tell who was driving the car, although it might not matter who was driving. They were all in there and all considered involved, but we certainly see that police are staying in the area, it looks, and...
My guess is officers are going to wait for backup, right, Mike?
Yeah, and, you know, I think that they're kind of... Yeah, they're waiting on a bunch of units. It sounds like they may have just wanted to ask what K9's up to and see if they can come out here. But, yeah, I mean, they've got a big perimeter. They've got the car where that ended, and then you've got 3 suspects in here, 2 more suspects that are who knows where at this point. So LAPD is going to try to set up a perimeter, but it's going to have to be a pretty big perimeter. And you've got the 3 that are in here and just this 1 patrol car. Okay, here comes a 2nd patrol car. So they may start focusing a little bit more on this building. What we don't know, though, is if there's, you know, that's a big building, how many units are in there? Did they make it inside of an apartment? Did they slip out a back door in the alley? Unfortunately, so much time has gone by that I don't know how difficult it's going to be for LAPD to actually get them. Yeah, and the airship saying they lost sight of them, too, as they went in the building.
And then we see they're taking off, at least one black and white taking off. You wonder if they're heading off to find another suspect.
Or to come back around the alley, I wonder, too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they're probably going to go around the alley, but now some other folks that live here just wanting to know what all the commotion is. And, boy, it's just... It's just so crazy how long we've been talking about this stolen Kia and stolen Hyundai problem now, and it still continues to plague the owners of those vehicles. It really is an epidemic of car theft, and it's a countrywide problem, not just in L.A. Of course, it's just so much more obvious here because so many of the stolen vehicles that we talk about that get in these pursuits end up being Hyundais and Kias. And my understanding is it's all because of a $10 part that those car manufacturers decided that to not install as a cost-saving measure. And this is kind of the ramifications of all that, guys.
We just saw video being replayed again, Desmond, of those 3 young people going into the home here. And we're guessing maybe that this is where one of them lives. Desmond was mentioning that the car kept going back into a similar area where the car was maybe perhaps first reported stolen. So, you know, what happens next here? Officers have arrived on the scene. Mike was saying they may be bringing in a canine officer just as well. Are they going to speak to the boy's parents, right, if they are minor?
It's going to be hard to decide, you know, who those kids are once they're in there. And if they live there, it's almost impossible to say which one was involved and which one maybe just a resident in the building.
You know, what they'll hope for is that a patrol officer that initiated this pursuit got a good look at the driver. That's really who they're looking for. You know, the other thing is the the LAPD helicopter generally has a camera on board that they're recording as well. So when they got out of there, I mean, obviously they can fly much lower, much tighter orbits than we can. So ideally, the LAPD helicopter will have a pretty solid either video description or, you know, witness description from the tactical flight officer that will help be able to, you know, make charges and take these guys into custody.
And do you think, Mike, that the officers in the helicopter saw those 3 go into the building? So
they did, yeah, I heard them. And that's actually that's how these officers got here. That police helicopter directed these officers to this building. And that one that we saw take off, remember the one that we saw dart through he did end up back in the alley. I just heard him say he's taking a position in the alley, and we saw him back there as well.
And there were a lot of people there on the street. We saw that woman who seemed to almost be like she was chasing them at one point, but then they walked in the building and she kept walking. So she clearly got a good look at them. I don't know if she is trying to help law enforcement at this point or if she was trying to help the boys. It's impossible to say what was discussed between them, but
so what happens now, right? This is kind of the big question here. We have 3 out of 5 young people who apparently stole a Kia, if that's what it is, a white Kia earlier today. Very dangerous driving, crossing through intersections. Lots of people out on foot today, despite the warmer temperatures, crossing over the expo line, down wrong-way streets or one-way streets the wrong way. And to see that they're so young and to be driving with that expertise again, and they're once again that video of the 3 making their way into this building. I'm guessing it's a multi-family unit building, right, Mike?
Yeah, it looks like there are several apartments in there. There was even a for rent sign out front as Des makes an orbit. They also talked about the detached garage that you see Desmond showing right now. So there are officers in the alley too now trying to hold that perimeter, and you know that's going to be kind of the game here. Were they able to slip it before officers got in place, or are they going to be able to catch them?
Yeah, and those other 2, it's almost impossible to say what happened with them. And, you know, we were talking about, you know, these particular cars being stolen. It has been shown on social media how easy it is to steal these cars. And a lot of the owners have been warned to use those old-fashioned steering wheel locks, what we used to call the club, the steering wheel locks. And so that was one suggestion for a lot of those drivers to use those to try to keep thieves from stealing their cars, because it has just become so easy. There's been so many reports on it, and I thought perhaps it was over because people were realizing that they could stop this from happening with a simple device, but still, you know, it's a tough time, and a lot of people are falling victim to this.
And for these young people, it's a challenge, right?
Exactly.
It's they're all hanging out together. It's summer. If they're out of school, they're just enjoying the afternoon, and this is the type of trouble they get into. And as Mike was showing us, there's the address 1022. It's over on 20th Street, and those are the stairs that the 3 went in. And we're wondering if there is an adult at home who lives here, and will officers reach out to the adult first to get them to come out? And what kind of charges would young people like this face, right?
And you know, that's, excuse me, we've seen this in the past, is it's not unknown to them that they're not going to face a series of charges as somebody who is over the age of 18. We've seen that happen kind of time and again here, where because they're juveniles, they're not getting hit with nearly as much, especially if they weren't the driver, right? I mean, that is who law enforcement generally wants, because they are technically in possession of the vehicle, so that would be the charge, right? Possession of a stolen vehicle. And if they can't get the driver, or if the driver is 15, 16 years old, that makes it much more difficult for them.
And if they even know which of these teens was in fact the driver, because you had 5 of them in there, and by the time they ran out, unless the helicopter, the police helicopter, was in a different vantage point and could see them all get out and see who was behind the wheel. But from our vantage point of Sky, Cal, we could not see them get out. But you're watching here as those 5, looks like teenagers running from that car, making their way around. And we have been discussing the fact that they were staying in that same general area, and perhaps they were just trying to get close to this building because maybe one of them lives there, or maybe they have friends there, but they were looking for a good escape route.
Right, and those 5 sticking together for a majority of the chase here, and then we see them here running on the right side of your screen. That was moments ago. And then, Mike, we know 3 went into that building. We know that for sure. We saw it. Desmond showed us that. Do we know where the other 2 are?
We don't, and I heard the airship kind of giving descriptions of them. It sounded like the helicopter was able to get a pretty good detailed idea of all of them. But, you know, and not to, I guess, give other alleged criminals some credit here, but that is kind of goes to show when we're dealing with these younger suspects. Generally, almost every pursuit that I think Des and I have covered where you have multiple suspects that are kind of adults and have maybe been involved in this before, the first thing they do is they generally all splinter, right? Especially when you're in a big group like that, especially when there are no cop cars behind you. So the fact that they all stayed together and that they're all younger kind of makes you think that that is what happened here.
All righty. Well, we're going to continue monitoring the situation here. Mike Rogers will stay on the desk. Desmond Shaw above it all. Meanwhile, we are going to continue with our other breaking news.